All right, so let's start the show. Nope, that is the wrong thing. Right button, wrong bank.
From the Gettysburg Museum of History Studios, you're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hello, patrons. It is the end of the year, and therefore we're doing our end of the year show, our little wrap up that Dave and I like to do. Dave, of course, you know, is Dave Bussiere from TR Historical, and he also is the guy that really keeps this whole thing afloat, frankly, because if it weren't for Dave working the schedule behind the scenes, I'd have no content for you. So that is who Dave is, in case you didn't know. Also, I'm going to introduce two new people, maybe not so new. First, we're going to start over there across the table from me, an unfortunate looking soul, but a great heart. A great heart. A lot of people.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Michael. He's Mike Boriski. You know him from his brainchild, Civil War Tees. We have a lot of T-shirt people involved in Addressing Gettysburg. Between the four of us here in this show today, three of us have T-shirt shops. Wow. And we don't hate each other. Right, guys? Oh, okay. Mike,
I like Dave. Dave's a nice guy.
Oh, you like Dave? Okay, good. And then last but not least, you might remember from a few weeks ago on AG Today, Colby wasn't here, and we had somebody new helping out. His name is Court Micker, and he is new to the show. He'll be joining us. You're between West Virginia and here, right, Court?
At the moment, yes.
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 But you will. You got a job out here. You're working your way towards Gettysburg, so you'll be between the two for a few more months, and then eventually you'll move, right? And
yes, sir.
And so I wanted to introduce everybody to you guys, but before we get to that, I want to talk to Dave a little bit. Dave, I want to do a little recap of our year. Did we have a good year? I mean, from your perspective, did we have a good year?
Yeah, I do. I think we had a great year. I mean, we ended up releasing a lot of content and material despite some challenges this past year that we hadn't faced before, which was a ton of cancellations due to, I mean, just reasons. It's just life. Life just happens.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like it was anything that was controllable. Fortunately, we had enough episodes banked from the early part of the year and late the previous year, to where we were able to compensate for the cancellations as much as possible. Unfortunately, when it came to December, we just kind of ran out of that flexibility, but that's okay. We've still got, you know, some material coming out, and we got plenty of content for folks to review.
Yeah, that's true. There's plenty in the backlog to go listen to. Yeah. And also, and a lot of those cancellations were reschedules. So we either have them scheduled or are trying to get them scheduled, or scheduled them and recorded the shows that we were supposed to do in the first place. So that was good. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So in some cases, we had asked patrons for questions for certain episodes, and you might be asking yourself, like, what the heck happened to that episode? I submitted that question like 6 months ago.
Yep.
You know, and or Matt might even prompt for like additional questions, you know, like we need questions for, you know, the Irish Brigade episode or something. And, you know, these things just, it's not that we forget them, or because they really can't be forgotten. They're all tracked.
Yeah.
But they just get bumped down the road until everyone is available to do the recording. Out of fairness to the guides, I mean, we can't do much about it. You know, it's like, if they're not available, they're not available. And that's a good problem for them to have. Sure. Because they've been very busy this year.
Yeah.
So just be patient with us, and you can always shoot me an email at dave@addressinggettysburg.com. If you have any questions, you know, I'll be happy to give you an update or something like that.
Or show ideas
to a particular episode. Oh yeah. We're always looking for show ideas. I refreshed the list this year. So definitely looking for topics to ask guides if they would like to cover to get onto the show, and then also to look for Patreon specific episodes to cover some of those topics as well. So again, just email me at dave@addressinggettysburg.com with any topic suggestions you have. And I will definitely put it on the list.
So we had all of that stuff that you're talking about there. We also had the Civil War Institute summer conference that we did. Now you weren't able to make it this year.
No, I was at the previous.
Yeah,
year.
but yeah, right. But you did some behind the scenes scheduling and stuff like that for us, and that's very helpful because it's such chaos. And I had that schedule rolled up and in my pocket everywhere I went, and it's very helpful because it's a lot. It's a very busy event, lot going on, and I need to be up in the room. I need to be down on the floor. I need to be this, that, and the other thing. And we had different teams, different people going to different events with recorders and recording them and all that stuff. And I really haven't even scratched the surface with releasing all that content yet. I like to do some of it right after and then some of it leading into the following year so that it gets people wanting to go. Of course, this year is going to be a little bittersweet because PD Carmichael's not there anymore. But it's going to be dedicated to him, and probably the greatest honor that could be, or tribute, I guess I should say, that could be paid to him is that I will be in a panel this year. And and well, it was his idea. So they're paying tribute to him by continuing with all of his ideas. Yes, we were drinking, Mike.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
makes sense.
Yeah, you could say that out loud. You don't have to gesture.
Didn't want to offend you. I was just low key like, were you guys?
No. Yeah, he was drinking. I was completely sober, but I knew what I was doing.
Good for you.
And so, what is this? Peter Zach says the day in the life of Matt should be on the to-do list. Yeah, that's something we were talking before about how my ADD makes a single day very chaotic because I'll start on one task in the morning and then a shiny ball will bounce down the hallway and I'll go chase that. And then another one while I'm doing that. Yeah. Oh, you too? So it's like everybody. How about you? You have it too, Mikey? Or
It's pretty, if I don't have my phone organized.
Right. So you're pretty bad too.
Yeah.
Dave, you're like the only organized one, aren't you?
I will admit I'm pretty darn organized.
Yeah. Thank God. Thank God. And that's why I'm not even exaggerating when I say that you're the one that keeps this going, because without you, like, I'm left to my own devices. That's why I was talking on a driving video this morning, and I was saying how, I'm like, maybe I should do like a behind the scenes documentary about just one day at Addressing Gettysburg and all the chaos, because it's just me sitting in here. And I'm like, all right, today I'm going to edit this video. But on the way into work, I make 6 different stops. I drive around the battlefield. Then I come in and then I eat my breakfast. And then I say, okay, what am I doing today? And I totally forget what I couldn't wait to get in to do last night. And so I'm like, well, let me think of something else. And I think of something else. And in the middle of that, I get distracted with something else. And then somebody calls me and then it just never ends. It's a God blessed nightmare. And
I would tell you, Matt, it's I think owning your own business, period, whether it's a media channel or a retail channel, it doesn't matter. What the day-to-day changes every day.
Yes.
So it's helpful to start with a routine to keep you on target, and I do my best to provide a schedule that allows you to prepare and predict what you're going to be doing. But just like in any business, shiny balls come up that can't be ignored, and it's like, you'll get an email from the park about something really important. And suddenly it's like, okay, we've got to, make that phone call or go meet this person, or you bump into a contact that is just, very valuable and you need to invest that time, or a listener shows up or a fan and wants to engage, and you can't blow that off either. So from a day to day, it's kind of a blend of having, this is what my objective is today, but also providing enough flexibility to be able to respond appropriately. I know I deal with that with TR Historical every single day, and that's a good problem to have.
Oh, it is. It is. Yeah.
Enough to have that.
I remember when I was in the shed all the time, especially during the season, there'd be somebody stopping by to say hi who's a listener. And I wouldn't, that would interrupt my work. but 2 hours later, I'd be like, all right, yeah, maybe you're right. They would say, all right, let you get back to your work. But I'd rather sit and talk to them for 2 hours than sit and do the work sometimes. So it's a sweet distraction. I don't get that here at the news studio. And I think that is kind of actually the problem, because I'm a team guy. I'm a collaborator. I'm not a solo artist, you know. Even solo. I mean, Elton John had Bernie Taupin, you know, like everybody needs somebody to work with, and I don't have that. And so I just kind of end up staring at the ceiling, you know, and, you know, the back room is pretty much, I should probably paint the wall or decorate it better or something so that it feels like more of a creative space, but it just feels like an office, you know? So that also doesn't help. Being out in the shed, on a nice day, I opened both doors. I have a nice cross breeze going. There's wind and there's bees coming through. And once in a while, a bird would fly through. And, you know, the hippie in me really liked that. Take off my shoes, you know, and it worked like that. Oh, yeah, there's a hippie inside me. There's a hippie in all of us. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so next year, though, we're looking to next year. And because we're out of Ask a Guides and... Oh, no, we have a couple. We have a couple Ask a Guides and a couple of Patreon episodes in the can, but I didn't want to use them up in December. I wanted to have them to start off in January with, so because we're recording a few more this month. So I just wanted to get a nice little cushion in there for January. So Patreon, January starts up, episodes are coming out again. But the lectures buys us time to record other shows that will come out later in the year. So the lectures are done on February 23rd. So that means the 24th, 25th. The 25th will be the last lecture released on YouTube. And then we're back to our regular schedule with normal releases and stuff. However, in May, something big is changing for the Ask a Gettysburg Guides. And that is that they will be live streams on YouTube. And then the next day, the audio will be put up on the podcast apps. There's a couple of reasons for this. One is you all know the story of how in June, YouTube played with the algorithm and now everybody's lost like a whole bunch of views, and basically they pretty much lost a year of progress from what I can understand from everybody else. I know I did. And we're all trying to rebuild that. So live streams help. I know, you know, the other thing is I didn't do as many driving videos this year as I did the year before. Those help a lot. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do Ask a Guides live. And they will be 2 times a month on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. And the idea of this, and I kind of started experimenting with the first lieutenants where we have you call in during the live broadcast. So a couple of reasons for this move to YouTube live streams. One is the number of people who watch the Ask a Guides of the first lieutenants. You know, we record them during the workday. Okay. So how many people realistically are going to be able to watch them? Mike, do you want to take a guess?
7.
7-ish, right? And you're right. It's 7-ish on a good day. Like if it was a snow day, 12-ish. And not everybody is able, because they are at work, or willing, because they're shy or they don't have a question, to call in with a question. And the idea, what I'm trying to move towards with the Ask a Guides, is a broader audience participation. You know, of course, we try to get people to join Patreon. We get our sponsors for different things when we can. We sell the coffee. It's a business. We try to make money, but that's because I love doing it and I got to eat. If money were not a thing, I would do this constantly, because I believe that people need to hear this story of the Battle of Gettysburg. I think it's very fascinating, and I think there's millions of people out there that we could reach if we could just figure out a way to get in front of millions of people, that I do believe would find this story interesting when they probably grew up thinking that it's not. And so it's been my mission to try to create something that's entertaining and enlightening and educational all at the same time. And so one of the things that I believe people enjoy is access to people they admire. And people admire the licensed battlefield guides like Charlie Fennell and Jim Hessler and all these people. Park rangers like Chris Gwynn or Scott Hartwig or John Heiser someday. Maybe we can get him on. And, historians like the late Pete Carmichael or Jen Murray or Caroline Janey or all these different people we've had on. You all know their books. You know their names. You might have seen their lectures or talks somewhere. And we try to humanize them and bring them to you and give you access to them. And so one of the things that I want to do is I want to have a broader audience watch the live Ask a Guides and call in. Now, we're still going to ask patrons for the questions because we need to prime the pump with something. But the phone calls at first probably are not going to really take off. But I think eventually once people get the idea, I think more people will tune into it and more people will participate in the phone call section and all that jazz. Now, either Mike or Court are going to be the person in the back running the cameras, running the show, playing the ads, all of that stuff. And also, we're doing it at 7 p.m. Many of the guests, many of the guides are going to be coming in after a full day of tours. And so we're going to tell them shows at 7, we're going to feed you at 6. So I'm going to get, probably something like pizza or wings. Like it's not going to be, craft services, Mikey. What?
Surf and turf.
It's not going to be surf and turf.
Tuesdays.
No, there's no surf and turf Tuesdays over here.
And then I'm out.
No. Yeah. Right. So we're going to feed everybody except for Mikey. And that's going to cost money. There isn't money in the budget for that. So what we're asking people to do is when you comment, if you have a question in the comments that you're not a patron, let's say, and you didn't submit a question ahead of time, couldn't submit one ahead of time because you're not a patron, or you are unable to call or unwilling to call in to ask the question, and you just want to type it in the comment section. There's a lot of like conversations that people are having in the comment sections, which is good. That have nothing to do with the show, and that's fine. But for us to sift through those while we have all the other stuff that we have to worry about in the room right in front of us, we don't have somebody that we could devote to just sitting there and sifting through them, trying to find an actual question. So we're going to ask that if you want your question read, you do what's called a super chat. And I think I think you can choose the amount of money. So we're not going to set a certain price. It's just going to be, whatever, $5 or more. I'll read it.
Yeah, round
right?
to the closest 50.
Yeah, right. Round it right. $5 or round it up to the closest 50.
Yeah.
I'll read it, and that will hopefully we'll get enough $5 questions where I'll break even on dinner. Stuff like that. So that's the idea there for the Ask a Guides. They'll be live. Now, Dave, you've scheduled one or two so far already?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Actually, I've got quite a few scheduled already.
Really?
I can tell you that the first live one that you're talking about that you hinted at everybody was looks like I believe that is May 6th. And we've got Larry Korzik is doing the Iron Brigade.
Nice. And I've
so
been
that's
wanting to do that with Larry for a while, so I'm glad we finally got that, and that's going to be live.
Yeah. So that's the first live one. Now we are recording some.
Yes, we have to have a cushion.
Live, right? So like the winter ones, that the rest of them that I'm going to read to you, they're going to be recordings that we'll fill in as needed. But we've got, that's an anniversary episode. We'll get to that. So I know Charlie Fennell has 2. He's going to do Little Round Top, other than the 20th Maine.
Wow.
Okay. He's also going to do the Union Offensive on Culp's Hill on day 3.
Nice.
So kind of a little bit of a different angle than what we've been spending time on
I like
Culp's Hill.
that. I like that. And, like on the tails of doing that episode with Stu about Smith's Brigade, Orland Smith's Brigade on Smith's Ridge, we never talk about that because it's a neighborhood. So what are you going to go and see, right? What are you going to take people to on a tour? But it's fascinating stuff, especially because you don't ever really hear about it. And I think that's the other thing is the Union Offensive on July 3rd. You don't really hear people talking a ton about that. So that'll be good to kind of dig into that. Go ahead. What else you got?
We've got Chris Armies doing the Irish Brigade. So that's one of those that I mentioned has been rescheduled a couple times, but we got that recording in January. Let me see what else. I know we've got Lewis is doing Lee's plan for Pickett's charge. So he's spending a little bit of more time on the thoughts and the preparations of what the execution was supposed to be. But he's also doing one that we don't have on the calendar yet, but it will come up soon. The Army of the Potomac in the back half of 1863. So basically after the battle, and after the retreat, right?
Yeah.
Like what is the state? What is the mindset of the soldiers after that whole experience? And so I think we're going to have, it's not like a tactical topic. It's a little bit more of the psyche kind of thing. At a time with a lot of change in the structure. So I'm looking forward to that one too. Let's see, we got Charlie. Ralph Siegel is doing one on Napoleon artillery in January. And then we've also got, let me see here. I think that's it on the ASCA guides so far. But we have some Patreon episodes as well. We have author Jonathan Land is going to be doing one on Freedom Soldiers, the Black Troops.
Yep.
He's got a book, so
we're
going to be covering. Yep. We've got, I'm still firming up the topic, but we do have an episode with Doug. Is it Doug Brown as a town guide?
I don't know that name. That's new to me.
We've got a new town guide that is joining us.
Good.
So we're just narrowing down which topic it's going to be. But we're going to spend some time on some human interest stories inside the town, which would be kind of cool.
You know what?
We've got,
go ahead, finish.
we got Reconstruction Part 2, with Rich Condon on the calendar already as well. And, this isn't a Patreon episode, but Chris Gwynn just confirmed today that he's joining us in January for Park Update.
I saw that.
And what the programming is going to look like. And David Martin is doing a Patreon episode on thoughts on July 1st.
See, if it were left to me to do this scheduling like that, we wouldn't have 2 of those. Right. I mean, serious. Like, and I know it sounds like what an idiot you are. Like, that's such a simple task. It's not, ladies and gentlemen. When you're mentally ill, it's not. All right. So, yeah.
We got Mike Rupert, I think, is doing Louisiana Tigers.
Nice. Is that a live one? Because he's not.
Don't know for sure yet because he's got to let me know. That one's not going to be recorded until like May because he's got to get into town.
Right.
But, we'll offer it up, of course, and we'll see. But yeah, lots of cool things. Plus, there's still things we're working on in December. We've got the photography one with Gary Edelman.
Yeah. So I texted Gary. I said, Gary, the topic that you have, it's vague. Like we don't know how to, people don't know how to formulate questions. Like what the hell is it? And then he sent me a text, which was basically, I don't know. I just figured it'd be like a free for all, just not about any local crap and not tactics or whatever. And I said, okay. And so then I just copied his text and I put it in the post asking for questions. And I said, here's what Gary said. If you have any questions, send them in. And so it should be interesting doing that with Gary. Now that's going to be free because Gary doesn't do things behind a paywall because of what he does with the trust. So yeah, that'll be free.
And do you want to tell them about the anniversary episode planned this year?
Oh, yes. Thank you, David. So, okay. So here's another thing, folks. You might have noticed that last year we didn't do any live shows. We did them in 2022, and I believe we did them in 2023. We were going to do one last March, but well, it didn't happen. I'm not going to get in the story because it's not nice to speak ill of others. So I'm not going to do that. So it just didn't happen. And also I just needed a break. I felt my nerves were becoming near what they call frazzled. And so I go, you know what, let me just take it easy this year, you know? So I had a lot of adjustment in the last year and a half. Okay. I got into a relationship. We moved in together. I got a puppy, which gets up at 4 in the morning to go out and pee. And so I was burning the candle at both ends. And I was like, okay, maybe I need to just take a breather here because I'm going to end up in the loony bin. You know what I mean? Right next to Mikey. And so I said, forget about all that stuff. I did have a meeting, though, a very interesting meeting with the manager over at the Totem Pole. And he wants to team up with a local podcast. And I want to find a venue that has a proper stage and sound system and lighting and all that stuff. And so we're going to try to do something together. He's saying July. I'm going to get back in touch with him and get back, kind of revisit this subject and see what we can do. But he wants to expose the Totem Pole audience to history, and I want to expose the history people to the Totem Pole and what they do there, and perhaps they might want to be members when they come and visit. They can go and see the plays. I mean, Edith Bunker, ladies and gentlemen, Edith Bunker was a major player in the Totem Pole's early history. So that's one thing, okay? But what Dave is talking about is, and this was actually inspired by the 24 Hours of Hell at the Seminary Ridge back in November. I went to see Matt Borders and Pat McGuire's show, the History Things podcast. They're good friends of mine. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go support somebody else for once. One time. And only once. And so we went in there. I did. And it was a small gathering. I would say maybe there were 10 people in the audience. But what I liked about it was that it was intimate and everybody knew each other. And so it was fun. And even with 10 people in the audience, the way that room is, it sounded bigger. So I was like, you know what? Now, we did a show there a couple of years ago, and we did it long ways, whereas they did it short ways. And because I wanted to squeeze 60 people, so we had like 60 people all squeezed in there. It was hot and it smelled like halitosis, and it was, nobody had fun. No, we had fun, but, I was like, you know what? I don't need 60 people. We're not going to do 60 people. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing, small, intimate. I'm going to limit it at 15 people. I think that's enough. And, we're going to sell tickets to it. But we are recording our Ask a Guides live. And that's going to be the anniversary show. So we're going back to the old format of an Ask a Guide. And instead of being out on the battlefield, which you can't see anyway because they're audio shows, and if I were to bring a camera out there, then I'd need a goddamn permit and then a whole freaking thing. So I was like, you know what? Let's just do them where people appreciate the publicity. So we're going to the seminary. This will be videotaped, so there'll be a video version of it. And we're going to do an Ask a Guide live with an audience. And if these go well, we're going to do that more often. And I even think maybe in the future, I would like to take it on the road to some other places, because we've got people around the country who are like, you should come out to my museum and do a show, or you should come out to our round table and do something. And I think if, this works, then that's what we'll do there. And really, it all depends. And I hate to do this, but it all really falls on the shoulders of Court and Mike, and see how well of a support they are, or how good of a support they are for me there in that case.
I'm going to book the Apollo Theater.
You're going to book the Apollo?
Yeah, see if that works.
Listen, I actually would do very well with that audience, okay? We are simpatico. We have the same humor. So that's what we're going to do. So we have the dates. We have the dates for that yet, Dave? Do we have anybody booked for those yet?
Yes, we do.
So the 3 dates, and they're all Saturdays. They're starting at the end of April, going into May. Go ahead,
so
Dave.
The first one is on April 19th.
April 19th. Second one.
And so the first one is July 1st, right? So that's
first one's July 1st.
And the topic is July 1st, but it will be recorded on, April 19th. And our LBG is Jim Pangburn.
Jim Pangburn, July 1st. Okay. Second one. People love Jim.
The second one is April 26th.
April 26th.
The guide hasn't been determined yet.
TBD.
TBD. May 3rd is the final one, and that's going to be Jim Hessler. May
3rd, Jim Hessler, July 3rd. And and we don't know who July 2nd is yet. And so now I'll let you know when the tickets go on sale. Of course, patrons get first dibs, and maybe the patrons will sell it out, and there you go. I'm going to try to keep the ticket prices low. I know when we were doing the shows before, I tried to do too big of an event. You have catering, you got all this stuff, I'm looking to do it differently to keep the ticket prices lower than what they were. But also I have to make my costs. I'm hiring a cameraman. They're letting me use the space for free because they're getting the publicity there. Also, by the way, July 1st, we should have Cody Aish with Jim Pangburn, because the seminary plays into July 1st. Okay. All right. So that's what we're doing there. Okay. Other thing I told you about before is working on a documentary with my friend Dan about the Spangler Farm. And that is a work in progress, probably will take a year or a little more. I said to Dan, let us not give ourselves a time limit. Let us finish it when it is finished. And he said, Matt, you're a genius. And I said, I know, but what do you think about what I said? And he goes, well, that's what I'm saying. You're a genius. I agree. So it didn't go exactly like that. All right. Court. I know you've been sitting there all nice and quiet. Court Micker, ladies and gentlemen, from West Virginia. Court, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you deserve to be in my presence.
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you about myself. I am obviously from Wheeling, West Virginia. I have been going to Gettysburg since I was 11. And I've always been fascinated by the history of the war in its entirety, but most specifically Gettysburg. And recently, within, I think it's been 2.5 months, we tragically had a person, longtime researcher, pass away at the Horse Soldier. And I have been friends with the owners for some time, and they called me out of the blue and extended the great honor of offering me a full-time position. And I ran into Matt. For anyone who didn't listen to the AG Today episode, I ran into Matt at the Fortinbaugh lecture and hit it off with him, kindred spirits or what have you, and expressed interest in getting involved with the podcast because I think the service it provides is extremely valuable. I think history really needs new life, new approaches, new perspectives, and new forms of media to reach people. And I think this is really the ticket. I mean, this podcast has gotten me through some some good times, bad times, everything in between. When I couldn't be in Gettysburg came to me.
Oh, I said that to somebody in a meeting the other day, and he laughed at me. I said, well, my whole thing is I want to bring Gettysburg to the people who want to be here but can't be, and he just was like, he just kind of scoffed.
What the hell?
And that was a marketing person.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Court, it's interesting the way you framed it that way about the show and everything like that, because, and this is part of the brilliance of this whole move. Mike is the complete opposite of you. He hates the show. He can't stand me, but he said, I'll do it to keep you, what was the word? Balanced, or to keep you humble, to keep you humble.
Of course.
Yeah.
Someone else to bring you
Someone
down
to bring you down a couple of notches.
Yeah, and that's not true.
Okay.
I don't hate the show.
You just never listened to
I've
it.
been trying to get on the show for a long time.
That's
I've
not
been
true.
asking you for like 3 years.
I've been asking you to come on the show for 3 years. That is nonsense.
Oh, I knew someone. Okay. I just had the people wrong.
Yes, you did.
I'm not good with
You
stories.
flipped the roles in this scenario.
My fault.
I've been bugging you to come on. But you guys both have a very, I think, a firm grasp on not only the Battle of Gettysburg, but the Civil War. And if you paid attention to the guide exam episode that we did the other day, I don't. And one of the things that I miss about Eric, the producer, was that, it was peace of mind because he could take care of things in the back and I didn't have to worry about him. And if the computer crashed, he would go and kick it and I wouldn't have to. But also, he was a great third chair. When there was a moment where the guide and myself were both stumped, before we'd go to the Google machine, we would go to Eric and we'd be like, hey, Eric, do you know, whatever. And typically, if it wasn't about the Pennsylvania reserves, he didn't know. No, that's not true. He knew a lot. And also what I liked about Eric is that he had combat experience. So whenever there was a combat question I would ask him. Now, you guys don't have combat experience, as I understand it, but
Life, man.
just life. Right. But you both have senses of humor. And you both are not afraid to talk, and you both, like I said, have that grasp on history. So that's really, to me, that's what Eric was that he was another head of knowledge that was particularly sharp, which I think you guys are from the conversations we've had. But I also think that your personalities would jive well with the show, and the audience will end up liking you. Mikey, I'm not so sure about, but I think no, I'm just kidding, Mike. Of course,
Thanks, man.
of course. That's
And
why.
nobody- and
that's why I've been bugging you for 3 years.
Eric's shoes are big,
Smelly.
shoes.
Oh, big.
Literally big shoes.
They are big shoes. Yes.
No, but he's a very smart guy. I had a lot of conversations at the shack.
With Eric, right? Because you guys both worked at Gettysburg for a while, yeah. And no, he is a very bright guy. And it's been a while since he's been here. The audience misses him. I could win the lottery and offer him $1 million. I don't think he's ever coming back because he wanted to go up there. They're having a family,
Or he doesn't like you.
Well, he also doesn't like me. There is that. I have come to that conclusion. So yeah, and even $1 million. He's very principled in his dislike for me. That even $1 million couldn't bring him
It's not
back.
enough. There is a number, but that's not it.
No, exactly.
It's somewhere.
So, but I think that third chair, it doesn't matter who's in it. Well, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm saying you don't have to be like Eric. But there were certain characteristics that Eric had that I think both of you have too. And so that's what I look forward to. That's what I've asked you guys to come on and do. Now we have witnesses that you've said, yes, you'll do it. Will they be here next year at the wrap-up show, ladies and gentlemen, or will they flake out? That
Is up to you.
is the question. How's that up to me?
A lot of pressure, man.
Because some days you're enjoyable. Like today, look, you're in a good mood. And other days you're insufferable.
When I throw things,
Yeah.
yes. Lots of four-letter words flying around. Lots of things thrown about.
That's the extent of words that you can spell 4 letters.
Yes. A lot of people say, Can you do a 4-syllable word? And I say, no, but I know 4-letter words. So, well, there you go. Doesn't sound like the West Virginia in the show used on, what? Grant, your English is so Australian. Doesn't sound like the West Virginian in used to on the show. Oh, I'm used to on the show. Yeah, he means Cam. Well, but you see at the bottom of the screen, we have the Alderson Broderson Cam George Washington picture. West Virginia, where is the accent? Where is the accent, Court?
I am from north of the Mason-Dixon line, very proudly. Wheeling, where I'm from, is actually where the first capital was, where the legislature decided to break away from Virginia. So we're more culturally like if you drive 10 minutes in one direction, you're in Pennsylvania. If you drive 10 minutes in another direction, you're in Ohio. I'm 40 minutes out of Pittsburgh.
How many minutes? 40?
40, yeah. I can be in downtown in about 40 minutes.
So you're in a metropolitan area.
It's the third biggest city in West Virginia, which isn't saying much because I think we have like 30,000 people. But
right. Right. The whole state is 30,000 people. Yeah. Well, it's tough to live in the mountains. It is. It is. I mean, we live on a mountain now, and it's a small one. And the other day, I was driving home, and it was beautiful and sunny in the valley. The minute I started going up the mountain, I'm driving into clouds.
Yep.
And then it was dark and gloomy the rest of the day up there, but it was nice and sunny still down in the valley. So it is different up in the mountains. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard. It's kind of hard to live. And I forgot that the beauty of where we are is we're literally on top. So we get sun all day long. Right. Whereas I once lived on a slope, and it was the eastern slope. And in the winter, it's dark at like 2:30 in the afternoon, and you want to hang yourself. It's the worst. It's the absolute worst. All right. So what are you most, honestly, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, be serious.
I'm pretty serious. I'm a serious guy.
Why do you want to do this? Why did you say yes finally when I begged you? Was it pity? Did you feel bad because I was pathetic?
It just wore me down.
I wore you down.
I'd imagine it's what happened to Cindy.
I wore you down.
I just held out a a little bit
You held out much longer.
We have a lot of similarities in personalities. We have the same sense of humor, which is good.
Mm-hmm. Not for the audience, but for you and me, it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I don't care if anyone likes us. I'm going to enjoy it. We're both from New Jersey.
We are.
We're both largely influenced by the movie Gettysburg, as in being a catalyst or a starting point for our love of Gettysburg. We both came here around the same age. And I'm bored. So I figured, you know what? I'll just say yes. Now I'm in a different place in life right now. I'm working part-time at the college, which I love. I'm pretty settled in here. So I just think I'm in a better place where I can finally pick you up when you're off. How do you picture it? Like, are you going to just show up and be like, I don't know. That's
you don't know.
To figure out.
You don't know. Well, I mean, like, how do you? I know, like, you daydream and you fantasize, like, oh my god, it's gonna be so cool. I'm gonna be on an international show, critically acclaimed. Get to meet people.
That'd be the cool part.
Yeah, you get to
meeting all the people,
interesting people.
I will say, no. Okay, so no, I haven't listened to Addressing Gettysburg for a million times.
Son of a bitch.
Every episode I listen to, I enjoy. It's my favorite thing now in the car.
Right. You've listened to what?
Catching up.
4.
Yeah. I've listened to my episode 4 times.
4 times.
And some of the other ones. Yeah. No, but the Ask a Guide ones, I think are fantastic episodes. And ideally, I'd like to, as I'm listening to them, I have some of my own questions.
Right.
Good. And sometimes they get answered as things go along.
Are there, when you listen to them in court, and the same thing, well, Dave too, if you want to, when you listen to those shows, is there like, remember in JFK, did you ever see JFK? Mm-hmm. Is this too obscure? When he's reading the Warren report and they're doing a recreation of what he's reading, and then it cuts back to him and he's like, ask the question. And they never ask the question that he wants. Do you ever have those moments where you're listening to the show and you're like, come on, Matt, ask this question. It's so obvious. And I never do.
Okay, so I'll go. Honestly, no. I almost everything when I'm listening to those Ask a Guide things, I'm more there for the ride. You know, the guide is kind of going through things. And in fact, what I'm doing when I'm listening is thinking about the next time I'm going to go to that place. Like, great one was Hall's Brigade. You did. I mean, it's just
that was with Zach Fry and Wayne Motz.
Yes. And you know, there's a lot of brigades at Gettysburg. There's a lot of places to go. That specific part of the line is something I've never really focused on. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, everybody's paying attention to the copse of trees there, the angle area. Yeah.
And they're talking about that little sheath, that little bit of ground out in front. And in my head, I'm like, I don't know what the heck they're talking about. Next time I was in Gettysburg, which was that same day since I was driving, listening to it. I went out there and I'm like, now I get it. You know, so it inspired me to go out and see things differently.
See, that's good because that's what I want people to do. Like when they come here is like listen to it while you're on the spot. Yeah. How about you, Court?
When I listen to and Ask a Guide, well, I should say, like, I vaguely like flattered myself thinking that someday I could probably like score highly on the guide exam.
Yeah. You might. Well, I mean, like, you guys have more. I think. Well, Mike already did. Mike took it when you were what, 14? Mm-hmm. 14, and he got like a 73,
74,
74,
which isn't terrible.
Which isn't terrible at all for a 14-year-old. But
with no internet.
With no internet, but that test was what, mostly about the battle.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the essays wasn't, and I can't remember all the questions. It was a long time ago. But yeah, it was mostly about the battle.
Yeah, mostly about the battle. So that, you know, maybe many of us could get 70% if it was mostly about the battle. But still, though, Court, I mean, just from the little we've talked about everything, you definitely have a firmer grasp on the rest of the war. So,
well, I mean, it's been decades of just this all-consuming obsession that I just can't, I've never been able to shake. And finally, just within the past few years, I decided I was going to stop fighting the universe and just go with it.
Yeah.
And the moment that happened, I mean, things just started falling into place. And when I listen to like Charlie Fennell talk about Culp's Hill, I think back to, I'm an auditory learner, I'm pretty sure.
Me too.
And I remember going on Troy Harmon was planning a summer battlefield tour, and he took me with him over the winter to pick apart Culp's Hill. And there were so many things, this is just a one-off, but there were so many things that when he and I did it years ago, I was just not as well versed, but I could listen to Charlie talk about it and go right back to where I was, whether I was living in California, I've lived all over the place. And no matter where I was living at the time, when I found the show, I could really just transport myself back to one of my favorite places. And I do that for all the guide episodes. And it is so easy to get detailed knowledge from the Ask a Guide episodes in a way that I can't get from flipping through a book, because I just don't have the focus to that sustained focus to really delve in there. I have to chunk up books and take breaks, and I can put on a 2.5 hour podcast with hour and a half podcast and just go with it.
Yeah, I have like 6 or 8 piles of books around the house with maybe 3 or 4 books in each pile that I keep rotating through, and I never finish one. I made a point last winter to read 2 books cover to cover. Mm-hmm. I read Treasure Island and I read Huck Finn. Nice. And no, I bought Huck Finn. I read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And this winter I'm going to do Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. And I enjoyed it because it was something different. Like I had to cleanse the palate, you know what I mean? And it was an achievable goal. It was an achievable goal because they're children's books. And I was able to do it. Yeah. All right. All right. So now, Court, the other thing with you that I think people might want to know is that you are also friends with Patrick Gorman. Mm-hmm. You actually tried to get into acting. He kind of helped you a little bit, right? A few years ago, I went to art school, which don't do that. Don't waste your time.
nobody do that, please, God. And yeah, I've always loved pretty much three things: film, music, and the Civil War. And everything else has kind of been, what's that?
Me too.
Everything else has kind of been whatever. And I had the opportunity to audition for a show that was sort of like a Civil War Band of Brothers type of thing. And I auditioned to play the part of Emory Upton in the Spotsylvania episode, and would have been opposite Dwight Yoakam, Michael C. Hall.
Wow.
Wow.
More excited about Dwight Yoakam because love him.
Really? I was a big Dexter fan, so I would have liked Michael.
Oh, I
C.
love
Hall.
Dexter, but
Me too.
Yeah.
So Michael C. Hall was going to play Grant, and Dwight Yoakam was playing George Meade. Paul Giamatti was he long? No, Bill Paxton was Stonewall Jackson. Paul Giamatti was Longstreet.
What?
Yeah, he's got the range for it, but they were going to have to really
make him look different.
Yeah,
I co-starred with Paul Giamatti in John Adams.
Yeah,
I was an extra, and I was about 12 feet away from him when he and David Morse. Yeah, when he and David Morse were doing their scene when he goes to visit Washington's army. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about the condition of the army, and we need this, and then Paul Giamatti's like, whatever you require, General, something like that. I was so it's a camp scene, and I'm on the other side of the tents from where there's two tents, right? And so I'm on one avenue or street, they're on the other street, and at first I don't know what the hell the scene is. They just go, okay, you guys come on in, and then they place you and they tell you what they want you to do. And then you hear, okay, action. So I'm like, I'm going to start at this tent, and then I'm going to walk over and talk to those guys at that tent. Very fascinating, right? Yeah. So I do. And as I'm standing there talking to them, they have their backs to where Giamatti and Morse are, right? And I'm standing there talking to them, and I look over their shoulders, and I see in this like pine tree, I see a camera. And I go, oh yeah, I'm definitely, every take, I'm right here because I'm right in the background. Now, for all I know, they've got it blurred or whatever, but whatever. You got to take the chance, right? So it's dead quiet. You can hear a mouse pass wind. And then I hear, whatever you require, General, right? And I'm like, who's that asshole? I didn't say it out loud. I'm thinking, who's that asshole? And I look over the tents, and there they are. I could throw a rock at them, right? And so I'm like, oh, I definitely have to be here. So every take, there we are. Whatever you require, whatever you require. It was like 5 takes or whatever, and they got it. And then finally, when it was on HBO, I didn't have cable at the time, so I had to wait until it came out on DVD. I got the DVD. I couldn't wait. I'm watching it. There's my scene because I could see me in the establishing shot, which was on a crane. And it was down on the camp. And I know exactly where I'm standing, but I'm this big. Yeah. Okay, I'm like tiny, so only I know I'm there, and you wouldn't believe me if I told you anyway. So there's no point in pointing it out, and because they had me like I had a wig on, and like it was all, and I'm all excited. Here's my scene, and there they are walking, and they don't use the camera that I can see in the pine tree. They're using the camera that's right in their face. That's the one they chose. They had like 8 cameras there, so plenty of coverage. But anyway, so he and I co-starred in that. And then I later bumped into him here in Gettysburg out in front of Kilwins.
Really?
Uh-huh. And I was walking, and I heard, I was going into Kilwins actually, and I heard a voice. I'm like, man, that sounds like Paul Giamatti. And I turn around, and there he is with a beard and his son.
What?
And reflexively, I just went, Mr. Giamatti. And he goes, yeah. And I said, sorry, I'm a big fan of your work. We were co-stars in John Adams. And he just looked at me like...
I was going to say, did you say that to him?
Yeah, I did.
I had to. It's the one chance in life.
Of course.
You should have been like, you don't remember me?
Oh, I was so nervous.
Soldier 18.
I go, we were co-stars in John Adams. Welcome to Gettysburg. And he just looked dumb, and I walked away.
Yeah.
But like a little kid after he did. Like, was like, and I just scurried away and ran inside Kilwins. So, yeah, anyway. But you were going to actually, literally, genuinely act with those guys. And then it
That was the
never
plan.
happened. Yeah.
What was it? Was it the
Yeah,
Road to
basically.
Appomattox? Was that?
No, it was that other
called?
one.
Okay.
It was two Appomattox.
Two Appomattox.
Two
That's what it's
Appomattox.
called.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody
But
knew that.
ended up becoming good friends with Patrick through it. He was going to be Charles Sumner, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
And when it kind of when the production company dropped it and everything went belly up, he has been a committee member at the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences for years, Foreign Film Committee, and he started inviting me along to all the voting meetings. So I'd meet him over in Beverly Hills a couple times a week, and we'd go and watch screeners and movie premieres and vote. And he and I went to the Oscars, had a blast. I guess we were kind of dates, and yeah, it was a cool experience.
Well, that is great. So yeah, so you know him. We know that's nice too. We have a little mutual friend there and everything. And So I think what?
Great guy.
Yeah, no, he is. He's very nice, and I love his highlighter marker drawings that he does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I better get one of those quickly before they become too valuable. All right. And Dave, anything else we want to add before we let everybody go?
No, I would just ask again for topics. So if anybody's got show topics that they want me to schedule this year, please email me.
Or even
and then
guests.
Matt, what's that?
If they have an idea for a guest, we could try to get them.
Especially, So a lot of times I'll get like a topic like, oh, you should cover this. But occasionally someone will say, hey, this person has a really good book, or this guide would be perfect for it. And that's really helpful because it gives me a direction to go, especially to find the person that should speak on that topic as kind of their baby, because I don't necessarily know that.
Yeah.
So the more information you can put in the email, great. It's not required. I mean, if you just want to hear something somebody put on the list, witness trees. So we found somebody to talk about witness trees,
Right.
But it's certainly helpful, especially if you have contact info. Of course, that makes it a lot easier.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I definitely pass it along my way. And we're looking for Patreon guests as well as topics for the Ask Guides. And I am booking like crazy because, in the winter is after Christmas is when my business slows down and I can give most of my time to Matt. And then once May hits, I'm pretty much in the field working my business at reenactments and stuff. So I try to get as much in the beginning of the year so that Matt's got a structure for the rest of the year.
Now, you said a couple of things that I wanted to just remind people of, especially if they're new to Patreon. And that is that you earlier you had said that if you submitted a question, but you haven't heard it yet, just to really ram that home, we record obviously well in advance of the release. Like Dave said, some of the shows that came out this year were recorded in 2023. And then other ones that came out towards the end of the year were recorded towards the beginning of the year. So we have a backlog on purpose because life gets in the way. So don't get impatient. If you want to hear your question, it will be heard eventually. This is, I guess, maybe your little taste of show business. What you do today doesn't come out for months, maybe even years in some cases. A good example of that is Gettysburg Christmas. It was done 2 years ago, premiered last year, and people still can't see it unless they come to town when it's being shown. And that's because of all of the business behind the scenes and all that other stuff. So there's always something that holds things up when you're producing any kind of show. And it's the same thing for ideas for shows or ideas for events or ideas for anything. People give us ideas all the time. They're very good ideas sometimes. But that doesn't mean you can do them in a month. Because first of all, we're working through a pipeline that was planned a year ago or something like that. And so I did have an experience before where someone was always giving me these good ideas. And like 6 months later, I'd do them. And then he'd be like, well, that was my idea. And I go, yeah. And now we have the time to do it, And then there were other ideas that the time didn't come yet, and that person got impatient, threw up their hand, and stopped supporting us. But it happens. It's nothing against you if an idea that you've given and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, we'll do it. Just because you haven't seen it done in 3 months or 6 months or even a year, doesn't mean that it might not be something that I'm looking for the opportunity for it to be done. Because sometimes you got to wait for the opportunity to present itself. And
and the person.
And the person.
So I throw the list to the guides and I'm like, hey, what do you want to cover? And if it's not picked, or sometimes I'll highlight it and go, hey, this one's been on here for a while. I'm looking for somebody to talk about this one, especially if I know that we've covered like a lot of, I'll just say like maybe a lot of Union episodes. Maybe we need some Confederate episodes. I might feed them that. Or if we focused a lot on Culp's Hill, I might move it to another area, or we need some human interest. So I try to mix it up. But if the guides don't feel comfortable talking about it, sometimes it's a harder sell. It takes longer to fill that slot. So sometimes that occurs too. They like to talk about what they're passionate about. So they kind of pick those topics first. And so if you haven't heard your suggestion, send it again. It's not going to bother me. I've got a pretty good organized system. Yeah.
And like you kind of alluded to before, any information, like contact information, or, some people, like we had McNair on, not too long ago. And Ben Quina was on before, and, they're not guides, but they came on Ask a Guides because they're doing like their own research on topics. And so they asked, hey, can we come on and do this and everything? And then we find a guide to join them. Even Zach Fry, he's not a guide. He's a renowned historian, published historian. He teaches history. But we're very strict about the Ask a Gettysburg Guide thing. And so you can come on if you want to. And if you feel that you're strong enough on a certain subject, you're certainly more than welcome to come on. And, we'll set you up with a guide and we'll make it happen, but it might take a while. Another thing, speaking of things for the patrons, so we have on Facebook, we started the Addressing Gettysburg business community or business network. And we did that for a couple of reasons. One is because we know that we have a lot of people in the audience who are artisans of some sort. Like an example would be Jessie Weedleton and her Captured Colors glass company or business that she does. So there's people like that. But there's people who also have national businesses that, could ship something elsewhere or whatever. I want to kind of restructure the advertising this coming year on the show. I want to have shorter commercial breaks because I know that's a pain in the ass for you guys. But also I want to have so originally my idea was to advertise local businesses for you. The problem is somebody to manage the sales department and keep up with the contracts, who's in and out of contracts, who's behind on payments, all this stuff. Adding that, when I was doing that among everything else, that was actually one of the things that fell by the wayside. And so I decided that, Addressing Gettysburg, we've got our t-shirt shop, we've got our coffee stuff, we've got Mike's t-shirt shop, we've got Dave's t-shirt shop. So we've got, and what is that? Oh, and then we have the what is it? I can't see it. Confluence Foundation that Court has, and then we also have the Digital History Pioneers Foundation that a listener started up for us. That are all kind of things that benefit Addressing Gettysburg and the people on Addressing Gettysburg. And so we're going to keep the ads to that, but I also want to leave a little space for patrons. You guys have been really good to me, especially those of you who've just been with me for years. You've been really good to me. And if there's a business if you have a business that you want others to know about in the audience, let me know. And I just haven't figured out yet how we're going to do the payment for it yet. I might make a higher Patreon tier, like, Colonel or something, and you would just sign up for that. And it would be like, a certain amount of months that you'd have to do it for. And we would run the ads. And then when it's done, you would just cancel it. And that way it's an automatic payment. I don't have to chase after you, and blah, 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 blah. But we'll see. So if if you have a business, big or small, doesn't matter. Let people know. You want to let people know in the audience. And, this audience is very supportive. So it is a good audience to tap into. And so I'm willing to do that. But if you don't want to do that for payment and you want to do it for free, go to Facebook and you find the Addressing Gettysburg Business Network, and you can join that for free and interact with people over there. Okay. All right. That's about it for me, guys, I think, right? Thanks for coming in and doing this. Mike, I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Oh, I had a blast. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I could tell. You're a barrel of monkeys.
Is that a compliment?
Yeah, no, you're a laugh riot.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And Court, thank you for taking the time to do this. Dave, thank you for taking the time to do this. And that's it, folks. So thank you for your support, and we'll talk to you next time. You'll hear from me again because we've got some recordings to do. Pat McGuire's going to come in and do a little just sit around and talk show with his producer Parker, and I'll be going on his show sometime in January to kind of start his year off on a lighter note, because actually we're going to be talking about humor in history. So yeah, so there you go. That's it. Take care. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. All right. Beautiful. Wow. Dave just really...
Dave, are we good?
Dave is so organized with his schedule.
I know.
Yeah, like 1 second later.
Yeah, boom. He's gone.